Hi guys, welcome to our second video, I think is the second video doing pen and ink. If you guys haven't done any of the other pen and ink videos with us, that's okay. You can still do today's project even if you haven't done the previous ones. But if you guys get a moment, go ahead and go onto our YouTube channel and look up the pen and ink videos and do the other ones as well. So before we get started and also give a chance for everybody to get onto Facebook Live, let's just start a little prayer before we start. Okay, guys? Thank you, Lord, for this beautiful day. Thank you, Father, for just pouring into us creativity, Father, that you've given us to help us to continue to explore it and grow and to become more like you in every area of our lives, Father, that even our art glorify you in everything that we do. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay. So a recap on supplies that you guys will need for this project today. You're going to need either a sketch pad or I'm just using copy paper. So you guys can use copy paper or a sketch pad. I've been throwing this into the mix, you guys, just to give you guys the habit of having a larger eraser with you. You need a larger eraser, or I have a eraser pencil. You will need either one of these just so you have it on hand. So eraser is needed. I'm using a mechanical pencil. I've been pretty much using this exclusively across all my projects. You can use a regular pencil like a Ticonderoga or an artist pencil. An artist pencil is usually like this without an eraser on it. That will work too. Just make sure that you have a sharpener if you're going to use a regular pencil. Then lastly, you're going to need a pen. So I've talked about in previous videos the many different kinds of pens out there. I don't even have all of them. So with me, and I use this in class, these are the Le Pen brand. I get them at Blick, but I think you can find them other places. Micron is also a really good one. Ignore the fact that it's purple. This is actually my personal favorite. When I ink things, I usually use Micron. So if you have Micron, go ahead and use that. There's another brand I really like, but I don't have it. It's Prismacolor actually makes a set of pens as well. I like them, but I don't have any. And then if you don't have any artist pens, which is these are called artist pens or technical pens, you can also use a ballpoint pen. So I didn't use this for this project, but if that's all you've got, this will work just fine. So grab whatever kind of pen that you have and some paper. And also with the artist pens, you guys, they come in sizes. So the ballpoint pen obviously doesn't, but these do. So I have a 0.1 and I have a 0.5 that I will be at my disposal today. I think I did most of this picture with just a 0.1. But if you have a different size, that's okay. Just the look of your tree will be a little different. Now, before I take this paper off, I don't know if it's going to capture it on the video, but I still have a ton of pencil lines underneath here that I haven't erased yet. So the reason I'm bringing your attention to that is because there's a little undersketch here that when I'm all done inking, I erase this, but maybe it's not showing up on the camera real well. So let's start our sketch.
We can see it.
Oh, good. All right, so a recap from the last project that we did. When I'm working on large shapes, to get it to fit my paper the way I want it to, I will use very simplified shapes just to make the sizing work. So my tree fits almost the entire bit of my paper. So I actually used a very giant oval to get the shape down first. And then I went back and I added in the additional detail for the tree. But before I do that, let's take a little bit of observation about our tree really quick. So my shape is overall kind of like an oval. So when you guys are drawing your shape, make sure it's somewhat circular, oval-ish. If you watch the video, I think it was the last video, we did a tree that actually had sections. So it was a different kind of tree. It had like these little, I called them bubbles, but there was like all these little bubbles on the tree. This one's just one giant one. So the structure is a little bit different than the previous ones. There is space in our tree. So this one has got air. So we have air in the middle. We have lots of cutouts on the side of my tree. And I also have down here a little bit of tree popping in behind the branches. So just things to tuck away in your head as we go along. But all right, let's start with our shape. So I'm going to fill mine out. I want my tree to come down. I guess this is a little below halfway and almost up to the top. So I'm going to draw myself a giant oval for my overall size. So I want my tree to be right about in here. Okay. Step one, really easy. Just get the size down. Now what I'm going to start doing is with my pencil, I am going to work on getting all my little in and out shapes of my tree. So I'm going to set this right here so you can kind of see it. Okay, so I'm gonna start at the top. It's kind of got a little bit of a peak, little in and outs. Hold your pencil very lightly. Do not commit to any of these lines right away. I actually drew and erased this probably 2 times before I was really happy with the way it looked. So don't commit. I'm just sort of being very sloppy, kind of coming in, out. I have a little cut in right here. That's why I came in. This sort of bubbles out a little bit further than this guy. Trees come, and actually I should probably link a really wonderful book that I like that has lots of different styles of trees in it. It's just a good thing to start studying the different kinds of trees that are out there, because there are so many different kinds of trees and they come in so many different kinds of shapes. This one, that's why I said it's kind of oval. It's sort of wider at the bottom and it gets just a little bit tapered as it comes towards the top. So I'm actually going to jump up. I like this up here first. Here's another cut in. I'm coming in. And then I'm going to come out really close to the edge. Now here's my giant cut in. So I actually made this almost a full cut right here. So I kind of made this like 2 sections. We have our top part of our tree and the bottom part of our tree. And that happens right here. So I'm going to begin this little cut in that comes this way. Right about there. And now I have a giant hole that I'm going to start to develop right here. Okay, now I have the overall shape of my tree, but this is where I told you don't commit to the lines right now. I've made it, I'm overall kind of happy with it, but I'm going to go back and just sort of shift the shapes a little bit. I'm not sure I like the top part of my tree, so I'm going to fix that. It's a little bit pokey. So I'm going to try to get rid of some of those things. And I'm going to get rid of all the extra lines. So I have sketch lines in here. I'm going to get rid of those because I don't need it. Unless you are like 100% like absolutely in love with whatever it is that you drew right off the bat, I would take this time to tweak and work on your tree a little bit. Like I said, it feels a little bit pokey, so I'm just gonna maybe round off some of the bits. Is everyone following okay so far? I'll assume yes, unless I hear a no. So Sarah, I was glad to see you. I think this might be the first time you've done pen and ink. So you'll have to let me know how you like it. And I said this before last time with both the watercolor tree and then the inked one. The really nice thing about working on foliage is that they do not have to look the same. So I bet you this tree I do the second time will not look like the first tree, which I'm okay with. Okay, how's everyone's overall shape of the tree? Are we happy with it? You guys okay?
Mm-hmm.
Was that like a like you're not sure, or?
Yes. No, I like it.
You like it? Okay, good. So now is the next step.
I like mine.
Good. Let's start working on the tree branches. and the tree trunk. So this one's a little bit more, I don't know, I guess there's just more branches and more tree trunk than there was on the last tree that we did. So let's start with down here. We're gonna work on the main trunk space before we work on the ones up top, because those ones have to look like they attach to something. Now I'm gonna do a recap about tree branches if you weren't in the video last time. So something to keep in mind working on trees, a couple of things. Say here's the main body of my tree. Make sure that your tree trunk is skinnier as it goes up. So it should be wider towards the bottom, skinnier towards the top. That applies to the branches that shoot off to the sides as well. So if I have a branch that comes out here and it attaches to the main body, it should be most skinny out here, and it should be a little wider as it comes towards the body of the tree. So keep that in your mind as you go along. It should always be getting wider as it comes to the main body and skinnier as it goes out. Now, the other thing is this tree has a lot of interesting shapes to it. So I don't really ever just draw completely straight lines. I like to think about even little tiny bends as I go along with my tree branch. So create interesting little shapes to your tree branch so it's not completely straight, nor would I make it really, really, really curvy. So make sure you're not making it a completely curvy branch. You need to give it some little bends, make little movements into them. So let's come back to the body of my tree. I start with the middle one, but you can start wherever you would like. So this middle tree branch has quite a bit of bend in it as it comes down to about here. I'm using pretty much the full space of my paper. The first V occurs up at the top. I'm going to get slowly wider as I come down. I'm going to stop right about here because there's another offshoot of the tree branch over here, and I'm going to do that as I go along. My other V sort of happens right about here, and then it comes down, slight curve, and connects right there. So I've just made sort of the hole in the middle of my tree. So now I'm going to do the other little branches up top here. I already see a couple things I might change in my tree branch, but I want to keep going along, and I can come back and fix it later. I also will fix you guys things sometimes as I go to ink. That just depends on how comfortable you are. If you are really unsure or uncomfortable with making changes with permanent ink, make the changes with the pencil. But if you feel confident enough, you can fix quite a bit once you actually go to start inking. Okay, so if most of you are done with this main bottom portion of the tree, now we're gonna start talking about this little hole in the middle of your tree where there should be some branches. Now, some of mine don't look like exactly like it's in line, like this little guy here. He's not perfectly in line with this one or this one over here, but I imagine that maybe there's a bend coming in here. So you can do things like that. So this tree branch doesn't line up with anything in particular, but I'm imagining that it would kind of connect with this one. So that's your job now, is to give me about 4 branches in this little hole and either make them look like they actually line up, like this one looks like it lines up. This one doesn't. Again, imagine that's bending. This one kind of does. So now make some branches in there and make them kind of line up with a few, and maybe a couple of them no. And make sure at least one of them is going at an angle. I didn't make all of my branches perfectly straight because then it kind of looks like prison bars or teeth or something. So make sure that you make a couple of them go a different direction, like sideways or something. Okay. And I think I also made a little branch pop up here. So this is the upper portion, upper right. There's this little cut in right here. And I actually think I forgot to ink one. So I actually think I put 2 here. I just forgot to ink it. Go ahead and add another couple little branches right in here as well. All right, I'm gonna go down and fix the bottom of my tree. I'm not sure I like this. Okay, how's everybody else doing? You guys doing all right?
Pretty good.
I added way too many parts to my tree. So
Parts as in like branches?
it's got a lot of branches and a lot of floof with holes.
Oh, let me see. I bet you don't have too many. You just probably have more than I do. So yeah, you do have a lot. I don't think that's necessarily too many, but you could always nix maybe like one of them out.
Yeah.
Maybe nix the one closest to the bottom. But it can be there. So or maybe just not as many branches. So I see that you made all those holes. That's perfectly fine. Maybe just make like 1 branch coming out, not 4 in every tier. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Make it a bit more random.
Okay.
Okay, so remember I talked about how the bottom of our tree, do you see how I made this line right here and my branches are sitting right underneath of it, but there's this little area on the bottom. Can you see that? So I'm gonna come in here and add a little bit more, and I'm running right through my tree branches just so I can see it. This is sort of like the under part of the tree, like behind the branches. And that's kind of what I'm adding right back in here. Okay, so I feel pretty good about this. I might change a little bit as I go on to ink it, but if you guys need to change anything with your pencil, now would be the time to do that. But I think I'm ready to start inking. So let's talk about techniques. So this is similar on the outer perimeter that we did with the last tree. So when you go to ink it, I'm not drawing any hard lines. So no, like, okay, here's the outside. That actually looks like a heart. No hard lines. What I'm going to do is say I'm following a line. Say I have a little line like this. If I had a line like this in pencil, even if it was a hard line with pencil, I wouldn't do that with the pen. Do you see how I'm kind of doing little in and outs? Not even always fully inking it. I'm kind of, sometimes I call it broken lines. I'm not sure if that's a real term or not, but I don't make it solid. So that's something you're going to be doing on the outside perimeter. You can see that here. I have a lot of little in and outs. This is sort of running into territory of random lines on the outer perimeter. It's very much, well, it's random. Sometimes they flick out, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's a solid line, sometimes it's not. So make sure you're doing lots of little things like that, keeping your pen really light. All right, so I'm gonna start at the top of my tree and I'm gonna start inking the outer perimeter first. And like I said, this is now the time where I can really commit to, do I want that to be a texture of some leaves happening or not? We had everybody sort of decide what we thought would be a more fun tree to do for this project. because the last tree project we did, we actually ended up doing mostly hatching, which I will recap the differences of the techniques. But this one is using random lines. So if you look back at the first video, so I guess we've done 3 videos maybe in Pen. If you look back to the first one where we're doing little spheres, we talk about different kinds of techniques. And so if you get a chance, go ahead and take a look at that and see all, well, not all, but some of the most common pen and ink techniques. This one will be random lines. Okay, so I have just done the whole perimeter of my tree right now. So I'm actually going to hop down and I'm going to begin inking my tree trunk. So that one's gonna be pretty easy, you guys. I'm just gonna follow the outline of my tree branches and the tree trunk. So if that's where you're at, follow me and do that. Same thing with the tree. I feel pretty comfortable at this point, sort of changing as I go. So sometimes I have changed the overall look of my branch as I go into ink. Like maybe I was like, oh, that's too thick right there, or I'm not sure I love the angle of that. I'll just change it as I'm going. Especially, like I said, with tree branches or with foliage, you can get away with changing things and not making it look exactly like the reference. Something we did, I think, at the end of the last tree exercise is I think we did it after though we went off live on Facebook. I had some people go back and maybe add color to theirs. So that is always an option. You guys can go back after this. I won't be doing it in the video, but you always do it on your own. Get like colored pencils or something like that and just work on a little bit of color. Or just tuck this away because this is the kind of techniques that we can use if we're doing any kind of watercolor project. I love pen and ink and watercolor put together. I just think they're beautiful. So you can always do a watercolor project and practice just inking over the top. I think that's really good. Okay. All right, so I've just done and inked the whole bottom part of the tree branch and the tree trunk. So now I'm going to do these little guys up in the middle section, like the hole. I'm going to go in and outline those as well. Make sure they're different sizes. So make sure that you guys are making some of them maybe a bit thinner, like they're like a little branch. And then maybe one of them is like a main part of the trunk. So make sure they're different sizes. Okay. All right, so you guys should be at this point where we have inked the outer perimeter and then we have inked all the tree branches and the tree trunk. Are you guys at that point?
I'm not.
Yes.
You're not? Okay. Okay, so yes is a nose. All right. So I'm just going to go back then. So I'll kill a little bit of time. You guys can do the same thing. I'm going to go in and I'm going to erase some of my pencil lines. So if you guys want to do that to kind of eat up a little bit of the time. Oh, do you know what I didn't ink? I didn't ink the bottom part of my tree. If you guys want it like the behind part, if you guys haven't done that either, go ahead and ink that. I forgot. Okay. All right. Now comes more of our techniques that we're going to start using. Okay, so for anybody who didn't watch the pen ink videos earlier, let's talk a little bit about the different techniques that we practiced last time. So there's a little bit of cross hatching. I think I do a little bit in here. So cross hatching is when lines overlap each other. So if I did a bunch of lines like this, and then I cross them going the opposite direction, I've created what's called cross hatching. If you're doing hatching, you're just removing that second step. Hatching is just lines going in the same direction, lined up with each other. And then if you just darkened it, but you want to keep the hatching technique, you just go over it again. Just make sure that it continues going the same direction. That's hatching. And that's primarily the technique we used on the previous video, is that we did mostly hatching. Now, the other technique is pointillism, but I'm not using any of that in this picture. Pointillism is just lots of little dots. This one is random lines. I like this one. I think this is a really fun one because it's I don't know, very freeing. You're just doing a lot of movements, sometimes little, sometimes big, sometimes with a deliberate purpose. So this one, it is random lines, but sometimes I tried to have a little bit more purpose to it. So I'm trying to imagine like little leaves, okay, kind of like that. I'm imagining this. So when I go to do the random lines, I'm trying to sometimes very deliberately give myself little shapes that could maybe look like leaves. So bear that in mind as you're doing the random lines. It is random, but I deliberately went forward and tried to make some of the areas look like a leaf technique. So tuck that in your head. I use that especially since if you look at the tree project again, some of the areas I popped in a little bit of darkness into the main body of the tree. And in those areas, I did the random line, but I tried to make it look like a little bit of a leaf or something kind of curvy. So that's the technique we're going to be using for this. So where I'm going to start adding in my random lines, so I'm going to come in to this bottom area here and the bottom area here. That's where most of the random lines are kind of concentrated. And I'm going to begin adding that in. There's a little bit of concentration of the random lines here and here. So I'm going to begin to add in some more random lines in there. Bear in mind that if you're doing the random lines, the more dense, so tighter, denser is usually closer together like this. The closer, tighter that you do these little movements, it's going to get a lot darker. And that doesn't happen too many places. So I'm trying to keep mine a bit wider, a little more breathing room, because if you put them too close together, it gets very dark. Okay, so I'm going to slow down and I'm going to take a break. I'm going to work on the bottom of the tree trunk branch area. So if you guys want to take a little break or just work on something different, that's where I'm going to go. So when I shaded in the areas of the tree trunk and the tree branches, I started with hatching, and then some of the areas I added cross hatching. I want you to imagine though, you see how this upper part of the tree, they're actually almost all just dark. I'm imagining that a shadow is being cast on those branches, so they're not going to be as light as the bottom. So what I started with is up towards the top. I tuck it right underneath that foliage. I'm going to come in with my hatching, try to keep it close together, and I'm going to fade off right kind of underneath that bottom part of the tree, that back part. So I'm going to do that now with all my branches. And some of them I brought down further just to keep it interesting. Trees have a lot of holes and different areas of light, so it might not be a straight, line across there. I'm also choosing, which direction you think that the light is coming from, and adding a little bit more shadow. I added a little bit more shadow on the left side. You could do the right, doesn't really matter. Just pick one and be kind of consistent with it. How are you guys doing?
Good. Pretty good.
Pretty good. All right, that's a good response.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! All right. Okay, so I just did most of the bottom of the tree. Now I'm also going to add in these little guys in the middle. I'm going to fill them in. Now they should be mostly dark because I'm going to imagine that they're set in a little ways. So I'm actually going to add one layer of hatching all the way across because they're in shadow. Okay. Now for some cross hatching. So some of my branches down here, I'm actually going to come in and turn my paper and I'm going to add a little bit of cross hatching in, especially towards that left side. I'm going to add in a little bit more shadow so it really makes it pop. How are we doing on time? I don't know what time it is.
It's 3:08, so we have over 20 minutes, yeah.
Oh, wonderful. How's everybody doing? Have you guys managed to work on a little bit of shading on those branches and the tree trunk?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. I'm gonna take a moment and take a look at your guys' work since I'm at a pretty good point because I'm almost done. So let me see how you guys are doing. If you guys want to go one at a time.
Lena, you want to show us what you got?
Is what I have.
Lena, I like it. So yours is like a little bit taller, almost feels like, I don't know, a little more pointy, which is good because some trees are that shape. So that's good. I like it.
Hey.
Nice, Lena.
Thank you.
Who's next?
Malai, do you want to show us what you got?
Oh, yeah, I got this.
Same thing for you. Nice, Malai. I like it. Very good. I like how all your guys' trees are going to be probably a little bit different from each other. This is good.
Kind of messed up on the shading of the tree branches a bit. But
What
that's
did
it.
you think you did that?
Oh, like it's supposed to be like the lighting coming from like the left side, but I accidentally filled this in a little
Oh,
too much.
That's okay.
Dark.
Just unless you had like absolute direct sunlight on it, because the branches of the tree are kind of in and out and scooping, you may have dappled lighting. So you might have a little bit of shading there. So I wouldn't worry about that too much.
Oh,
If it
okay.
was really far down, so if it was like almost towards the bottom where there shouldn't be any more, tree shadowing going on, then that
Mhm.
might look a little weird. But you're high enough up. I don't think it's gonna matter.
Liberty?
Good, Liberty. So I like the shape of your tree. It looks like the random lines towards the bottom of your tree are really dense, which is fine. I want you to pull some up that are looser. So you're gonna try to lighten it up so it's not so heavy. It's very heavy. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, good.
Good job, John, Mr. Producer.
AP? I think she's showing.
Nice, good job. Very good. So I would say that has really good random lines in it. Try, sweetie, grabbing a few. Let me see if you can show my paper real quick, Mr. John. If you have some of your random lines, honey, come out in little pokes like a leaf. Kind of imagine like this sort of shape, honey. So if you've got the outer point of your tree, try to make some of them come out like that. Sort of like they're very like little shapes that could maybe be seen as like a leaf. Try having more of that poke out. It won't make your tree look so solid. Your tree looks like pretty solid. Even though the random lines, it looks harsh, if that makes sense. But really good. Nice job.
Joey?
Good, Joey. So it looks like for you too, is that top right area, Joey, is that inked or is that pencil?
Uh,
Kind of near
this
the
area
thumb.
right here,
Yeah, that area.
it's inked.
It's inked. Okay. So is that a branch or is it part of the tree, like the foliage?
This right here,
Yes, sir.
that is a part of the tree.
Okay. Are you trying to do cross hatching instead of random lines? Is that the technique we're going for?
Yeah, right there.
Okay. 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 Good. So that's fine. You can always change up the techniques. Maybe try to either pull some random lines up or some cross hatching down so that it's not so separate. See if you can try to make them come together a little bit more, Joey. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay. Good. Good job, Joey.
Now we can look at Macy's
thank
now.
you.
Macy, nice. I like your random lines. Good. So same thing for you. You've got a lot of random lines on the outer perimeter, which look great. If you poke a couple of them out with those skinny little technique that I kind of showed you on the main page, like I was showing AP, do little ones that come out. It makes it feel lighter. So even random lines can end up looking harsh and chunky, which is kind of what's going on there. So make little pokes and little things come out that are soft. They create a lightness to the tree so it doesn't appear chunky and weighed down. Was that everybody, Mr. John?
We got a couple more. Ada.
Ooh, I like this one. This looks good. So I like that so your tree has one main trunk and then these little branches that come off the side. I like this. Maybe add a little bit more shading on your tree branches there. Give it a little bit. And then, I don't know, you're almost done. Maybe, I think I started to do it in mine, Ada. I have a few areas in my main tree that I started to add a little bit of shadow into them, just like little bits, so that the area isn't solid white. Your upper area looked mostly white like mine is right now. I added these little guys in here, like little tiny areas of random lines. Do that a couple times in that upper area, and then that should be done. I think it looks really good. Nice job, Ada.
And then Sarah, do you want to show us what you got?
Sarah, yay! Is this your first time doing pen? Oh, you're muted. Hold on. Hold on. Can you find the unmute button?
Yeah, I think it's my first time. Yeah.
Very good. Hold it up one more time so I can see it. Okay. Very good, honey. I think same thing for you. This is probably across the board for most of you guys. Was that the last person, by the way, John?
There's still a couple more actually.
Oh, okay. So maybe I'll wait. I'll wait for my last comment for you, Sarah, because it kind of applies to everybody.
Let's see.
But
Emma?
nice job, Sarah. Looks really
Emma,
good.
do you have something to show us?
Let's see it. Hold it still. There's always a lag, you guys. So make sure you hold it still just for a little bit, because then I can see it. Really good.
I'm doing pen and ink.
What's that?
Pretty good for my first time doing pen and ink.
Pretty good for your first time is right. Both of you and Sarah have done really well. It's your first time doing pen and ink. I'm very proud of you girls. Very good. Nice.
And then Abigail, right? And Adelie.
This is what I've got so far.
Hey, that looks so good, girls. Let me see the other one. Nice. I love how you guys have completely different shaped trees. I like it. Good. Is this your first time doing pen and ink?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Excellent. See, I love all these first time pen and inkers. I love it. So this is probably the last little, it's not really critique, but maybe a suggestion, something to look out for, I think, all of your guys' pieces. So I'll have you guys look at the paper again. So when you are, say this is my outer shape. Got my little shape of my tree here. Here's my little tree. If you guys do your outer lines really tight, I want you to see how tight I'm doing this. Do you see how tight? This is, I want to say 9 out of 10 of you are doing this. Do you see how tight that looks? Very, very, very tight. So try and make either don't do any little, I did little scribbles only in a few areas. Do you see how I really just kept it in the shadows? On the outer perimeters, either do none, see like here I'm doing none, I'm not doing random lines, Or you can do random lines, but they need to be really big and really loose. Do you see how I'm even popping some of them open? I'm not making it solid. Can you see the difference? So try and see if you can make it with random lines a bit more open, more breathing room, so it doesn't end up looking chunky, kind of like this. So that would be my suggestion. You can fix it. So if you have an area that looks like this, what you can do is begin to come out of it really big, really loose, and it will soften it up so it doesn't look quite so harsh. Okay. So if you guys have that going on in your picture, you can even come outside of the tree a little bit and maybe add a few little guys that are really loose, really chunky. I mean, not as chunky, just to kind of break it up so it's not quite so thick. If that makes sense. Okay. So I'm going to finish up my tree now. So what I've done at the bottom is I also added some grass in. So I added a little bit of very loose grass at the bottom. So it attaches to the bottom of the tree. He's kind of like random lines, but just sort of skinny, long and skinny. Very loose. Some like grass stuff going on in the bottom there. And I'm also going to come back up to the top up here. And like I was telling somebody, I forget who, I think it was Ada, I'm adding in a few random lines in the upper part because it's all just solid white and I don't want that. And then we're just about done, you guys. What'd you guys think for your either first time or second tree? Do we like this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can always tell it's Joey. Now, what I like about this project is that this might, pardon me, this might get us ready for working on a little composition of different trees and techniques. Because I think I'm trying to get you guys practicing a couple different kinds of trees so that when we go back to work on this little landscape picture that I have planned for us, we will have already practiced trees like this and it shouldn't be quite as hard. So I think I'm done with mine. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to leave it. So does anyone have any last minute questions before we call it a day? No questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, who's that?
Malai,
Yeah, what's up?
what about like the back? Do you have to darken it or something, or just leave it open?
I think in a real world, yes. But I left it open just because I wanted it to give the appearance that there was something going on there. If I darkened this back area, I don't think it would show up as well, which is why I left it. If you really want to, you can add a little bit of shading in. I would do it really, really lightly though. If you go too dark, it's just gonna look really chunky up here. So yes, I think ideally in a perfect world, it would be shaded underneath, but I'm looking at this more of like an illustration. So I didn't put it in there. Does that make sense?
Yep. Thank you.
Yep. Is that it? No more questions?
You should look in the
No?
because someone was wanting to show you what they were doing in chat.
What was that, Lena? I didn't hear the first part of what you said.
In the chat, someone was trying to get your attention because they want to show you what they did.
Okay. Let's take a look. Macy, this looks good. Very good, honey. I like your tree. You even, are those leaves? I like it. I like your
I wanna
leaves.
Talk to them maybe.
Really
What's up?
good.
Maybe I
Nice.
should talk,
I love it.
but I'm not connected. And I can't find the,
I think you're done, Macy. I call it good. Yeah. Did you say you wanted to talk, Miss Gia?
Okay.
I just want to invite everyone tomorrow. we're going to have a combined drawing lesson as well as chapel. And we're going to talk about how to connect your artistic ability with ministering and serving the Lord and hearing from him. So Mr. John's going to handle it tomorrow at 10:30 in the morning. Then at 12:30, he'll do his regular animation and illustration 2D animation lesson. But I'd encourage you to come at 10:30 tomorrow morning. Bring your favorite medium, pencils, markers, paint, pencil, whatever you like, crayon. And we'll see you tomorrow at 10:30, I hope.
That sounds good. All right, sign your pieces, you guys. If you're done, I'm done, so I'm going to sign mine. And then we will see you guys tomorrow at 10:30. So join us for some more art tomorrow, guys, okay? And as always, please post your pictures. I love to see them. I think everyone else likes to see your guys' work too. So post your pictures. And if you guys are done, you guys can sign off. Thanks, guys, for joining me.
Thanks.